Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into one of the most incredible economic stories of our time, the story of Vietnam. We're talking about an 80-year journey from a country just torn apart by conflict to a true economic powerhouse. It's a wild ride, so let's get started. I mean, just look at this. The change is absolutely staggering. You have to remember, back in 1985, Vietnam was one of the poorest places on Earth, and now it's a major player, a global manufacturing hub. So the question is simple, but huge. How on earth did they do it? How did they pull off this kind of turnaround?
Okay, so to really get how incredible this rise is, you first have to understand just how low the starting point was. We're not talking about a simple, slow start. It's more like starting a race from the bottom of a crater. Vietnam's modern history was basically forged in nonstop conflict and hardship.
Think about this. For 30 straight years, from 1945 to 1975, the country knew almost nothing but war. It starts with a fight for independence from the French, which ends in '54, and then bam, it rolls right into the devastating Vietnam War, which doesn't end until reunification in 1975. The toll this took on people, on the economy, it's almost impossible to measure, just immense. So you'd think, okay, the war ends in '75, things must get better, right? Well, not exactly. The hardship actually continued. The government put in this rigid, centrally planned economy. Add to that international embargoes and more border conflicts, and it was a recipe for economic disaster. We're talking about a decade of severe shortages and just crushing poverty. So let's put it all together. By the mid-'80s, Vietnam was completely stuck. It had a failing command economy, it was cut off from the rest of the world, and the result was total stagnation. This was it. This was rock bottom. And it's right at this moment that everything was about to change. And that change, it came from a really bold, almost radical new policy. This was the pivot, the turning point. The moment the country's leaders decided, okay, we have to change course completely. And they did, with a policy they called the Great Renovation. The policy's official name was Doi Moi. It literally translates to renovation. And when it kicked off in 1986, it was a massive set of reforms. The goal? To create something they called a socialist-oriented market economy. Now, this wasn't just tinkering around the edges. This was a ground-up reinvention of their entire economic way of thinking. So what was the big idea? At its heart, it was about moving away from that rigid, top-down central planning and embracing a market economy. It meant the government had to let go of total control and allow things like supply and demand and private businesses to actually work. And this wasn't some abstract ideological debate. It was a practical choice made because the old way just wasn't working at all. So how'd they actually do it? It really came down to 4 huge practical steps. First, they liberalized agriculture, giving farmers way more control. Second, they encouraged private businesses to actually start and grow. Third, they opened the doors and actively went looking for foreign investment. And fourth, they stopped setting all the prices and let the market decide. These 4 things, they were the keys that started the economic engine. And once that engine was running, wow, the results were just explosive. The years that followed Doi Moi, we're talking about one of the fastest economic climbs in modern history. It was truly remarkable. Just look at the numbers here, they really tell the story. Before 1986, growth was basically zero, flatlined. But after the reforms kicked in, the economy just took off. We're talking consistent growth of 6 to 8% every single year. For perspective, that's some of the best growth in the entire world. And this boom wasn't just about factories and exports. It was also about investing in their own people. Get this, a staggering 94% of the population is literate. And that wasn't just a nice social goal. It was smart economics. It created the skilled workforce they needed to attract big, modern companies and really start climbing that ladder.
So remember that table from before showing how things were? Well, let's look at the after picture. It's totally transformed. The economic system is now market-oriented. The country is plugged into the global economy. And the result? Crazy fast growth and a massive drop in poverty. It's like night and day, a completely different country.
A huge piece of the puzzle here was rejoining the world. They were very strategic about it. Step by step, they rebuilt their relationships. They normalized ties with China in '91. They got the US to lift its embargo in '94. Then they joined major clubs like ASEAN and the World Trade Organization. Each one of these moves opened up new doors for business and investment.
And this is where it connects directly to you. Your phone, your computer, there's a good chance part of it was made in Vietnam. Today, it's a super important link in the global supply chain for brands you know and use every single day. We're talking huge companies like Samsung, Intel, and Apple's suppliers. They've poured billions into the country, turning it into a real manufacturing giant. But here's the thing, the story is far from over. Vietnam's journey is now entering a whole new chapter. And this one is defined by some seriously big ambitions, but also a whole new set of really complex, modern challenges. So what's the big goal? Well, it's incredibly ambitious. The government wants Vietnam to become a high-income, fully developed nation by the year 2045. And that date is no accident, it's super symbolic. It'll be the 100th anniversary of their Declaration of Independence. But getting there is not going to be a walk in the park. There are some major hurdles in the way. For one, it's one of the countries most at risk from climate change. Then there's the tricky geopolitical tightrope they have to walk between the US and China. And on top of that, there's pressure to reform their own governance to keep up with their fast-moving economy. So Vietnam's story is just this incredible testament to resilience and the power of bold change. But that final chapter, it's still being written. And that leaves us with the big question. After this 80-year journey from total devastation to dynamism, can Vietnam handle these modern challenges to reach its 2045 goal? I guess we'll just have to wait and see.